Hey guys, and welcome to 2022. My name is Jeff with Passive Income Unlocked, and this will be the last income report for 2021. So this one's for December. If you want to follow along, head on over to passiveincomeunlocked.com. It will be right at the very top there. So if you want the short version, in December we made $49,382. Our expenses were just over $8,000, and that left us with a net profit of $41,000 and some change. So super happy with those numbers. And I'm going to jump into analytics on a couple of our sites in a minute here. But one of our sites actually brought in over half of that revenue. So it's kind of interesting. So before I jump into the numbers, just a couple things. First thing, as usual, nothing you see here includes revenue or expenses or anything from passiveincomeunlocked.com or from the YouTube channel. And second thing that I wanted to mention is that Ben and I are planning on scaling back a little bit on YouTube going forward in 2022, mainly because we want to put more effort into growing our sites. So if you guys have content that you want us to prioritize, so certain topics that you want us to post videos on, let us know in the comments below. We already do have a list of videos that we plan on publishing, so at least that'll help us prioritize. So if we see something that's kind of in high demand that you guys want to see, then we might move that up the list or whatever. I don't really know. When I say scaling back, I don't know if that's going to be one video a month, 2, 3, whatever. There might be some months where we post 4 or 5. I don't really know. But either way, we're going to put more focus on growing our sites. So let's just go ahead and jump into the report here. So as far as changes and updates, I usually have a few things that we did, some big items that we kind of, changes or whatever for the previous month. But in this case, I don't really have a whole lot. And the reason is twofold. So we had the holidays, of course, so we're spending a lot of times with our families. And two, we actually had a lot of illness going around in all of our families. It was not related to COVID, and there's nothing serious or anything like that. That kind of took away from us being able to work on our sites as much as we wanted to. And at the same time, though, it's kind of refreshing for us just kind of follow our game plan and not, change course too much. So we kept working on our sites. We kept publishing. We kept chipping away at things, adding internal links, things like that. We just didn't take on any big projects. So next, I'm going to jump into the sites and posts. So I'll bring up a screenshot here. So as you can see, we have 6 websites now. Site number 6 is a case study. I will be publishing a new video on that here probably within a week or so keep an eye out for that. That site is 2 months old. We've published 90 posts already on it. We're posting roughly 40 to 50 posts a month on that one. Site number 5, we're publishing about 1 to 2 posts per day. We're really trying to ramp that one up to get it to ad levels with Mediavine. And then sites 1 through 4, and that includes mybackyardlife.com. We're still publishing 4 posts per week per site. So as I mentioned early on, we had one site that brought in over half the revenue for December. That site was site number 1. I've mentioned in the past that site is a food-based site. So as you can imagine, you go into the cooler months and people like to, and especially the holidays, people like to cook and they like to eat and whatnot. So that site really grows throughout the winter months. It'll still do well in January, and it'll probably start to taper off. So that site, I'll bring up the analytics for you here. And this is for the whole year of 2021. And as you can see, it's pretty steady throughout the year, right around the 300 to 400,000 page view mark per month. I think the low was about 300,000 throughout the whole year. But as you get towards the end of the year in the fourth quarter, it starts to really ramp up. In December, we had over 650,000 page views on that site. So at the same time, our other 3 sites, our other 3 big sites, I should say, they do the opposite. So they do really well throughout the summer. And then they taper off at the end of the season, and then they actually drop their traffic as site number 1 goes up. So this works out really well for us, obviously, because it kind of keeps our sites balanced throughout the year. This is one of the biggest benefits of having multiple sites. Sometimes you'll have one site that goes up, then you'll have another site that goes down at the same time or whatever, and that's not going to always be the case, but the more sites you have, the more likely you're to see some differences between them. And it's not always due to seasonality either. It could be algorithm updates as well. So we had 3 of our sites get hit by algorithm updates this year, which was unusual, but it does happen. So we had My Backyard Life was hit, I think, in maybe June or July. Then we had sites 2 and 4 hit in November. But because we have multiple sites, you don't see those dips as much. And of course, we didn't get hit significantly. I think we lost probably 10 to 25% on those 3 sites as they were hit. But the more sites you have, the better you kind of can weather that storm. Kind of the same concept as investing. So next, I'm going to bring up another analytics report here. So this is site number 5. So site 5 is the one that I mentioned in the past. It's our newest site, aside from that one that's a case study that we just launched. This site's about 15 months old now, And as you can see in the screenshot here, month over month, it grew by roughly 55%. So huge growth in December. This site is not seasonal at all, so the growth isn't due to seasonality, and it's actually doing even better in January. It's as you can see where it ends there at the end of December. It's actually starting higher than that in January, so it's doing very, very well. Up over 27,000 page views now. And just as a reminder, this was an experimental site for us. We changed our strategy on this site. Basically what we did, just for those of you that haven't seen the older videos, we picked a very, very broad niche, and we just started peppering random content on that site. So anything that falls within the broader niche was fair game. Low competition only, so we weren't targeting anything that wasn't low competition, but you might have a post over here, post over here, post over here. None of these posts are really related to each other aside from the very, very broad theme. And obviously it's working to an extent, but it's not growing as fast as our older sites. So I think it's kind of proving the concept for us a little bit that it makes sense to kind of target something that's a little bit more related. And that's what we're doing now. So as of about a month ago, we decided, let's start looking at the posts that are doing really well or the topics that are doing well on the site. Let's start to funnel some more content towards towards those topics. So produce more content on related topics, start to interlink those posts and so on. So that's what we've been doing. That's going to be our strategy going forward on this site. So growth was huge. We don't know if that was just due to the site being 15 months old, or it's because we're pumping so much content into it, or it's because we're doing so much internal linking right now. Really hard to say, but whatever the case, it's growing really nicely, and we're expecting it to keep going up, hoping to get it to Mediavine levels within 2 months, but we'll see. All right, next I will bring up a screenshot. This is traffic for all of our sites combined. So for all of 2021, as you can see, we kind of started the year somewhat lower. Then we have the 3 sites that really do well, sites 2, 3, and 4 throughout the spring. So those go up, kind of levels off throughout the summer. Starts dropping down. As if you look at the blue there at the very top of the bar graphs there, you'll see that the blue, that's site number 1. That one starts growing in the third quarter through the end of the fourth quarter, whereas the other sites get smaller. And then when we get into January of 2022, we're going to see the opposite, where site number 1 starts going down in traffic, sites 2, 3, and 4 start going up. And site number 5, like I mentioned, that doesn't really have any seasonality to it, so hopefully that'll just keep growing and growing and growing, at least until we get it to ad level, and then we'll see how it does from there. So revenue, like I said, we made $49,382. So I'll bring up a graph here. So same thing, this kind of follows the traffic to an extent, but not quite. You do have a lot higher RPMs in November and December, so that's why you can see, even if your traffic goes lower in the winter months, you can still make a lot more money, and that's what happened for us. Our session RPMs for just display ads with Mediavine in December, we had our lowest site was $36, our highest was $50. I believe the other two were somewhere around like 44 and 45 or something like that. So pretty high RPMs as a whole. And then next, I'll bring up a screenshot of Mediavine. So this is our ad network that we use. As I mentioned, we made most of our money from one site. So you'll see site number 1 there. That's the top line, $29,700, whereas our other sites were much, much lower. But if you go back and watch some of our income reports from the summer, you'll see that all 4 sites were right around $10,000. So that's just kind of how these sites really balance out. They're pretty steady throughout the year, but when we get to the winter months, site 1 takes off. Sites 2, 3, and 4 drop, and then it reverses course in January. All right, so aside from display ads, that's where we make the most of our money. We also did make some money from Amazon Associates, so those were our affiliate links. We don't really prioritize affiliate links a whole lot. We made $1,590 from our US account, so that's what's on the screen there. Aside from that, we made about $122 from Canada and the United Kingdom. All right, so let's jump into expenses next. So total expenses for December, $8,218. Couple of larger items would just be hosting. So we use Rocket.net, and then stock images, we use iStock, although we're switching to Shutterstock in 2022. Then everything else comes from, or pretty much everything else comes from outsourcing content. So we had almost $4,500 with Textin, and then $3,400 with Passion Post. So that's the bulk of our spend is on content. So net profit for the month of December, we had total revenue of $49,382.21 minus $8,217.95. That left us with a net profit of $41,164.26. We didn't quite hit our goal of hitting $50,000 in a month, but we're close enough that we're really happy with it. that's kind of a soft target for us anyways, because it's kind of out of your control on whether or not you hit a certain number, obviously. All right, so the last thing I'm going to touch on here are future plans and goals for 2022, and this is really our goals as a whole. So I just kind of touched on this a second ago, but we had the soft target in 2021 of making $50,000 in a single month by the end of the year. We also had the same soft target of doubling that up to $100,000 in a single month by the end of 2022. But to be honest, these aren't actually goals. They're just kind of soft targets that we'd like to hit. There's too many variables that are out of our control as far as whether or not we can hit these numbers. So our true goals for 2022 are more task-oriented. So some of those goals, we want to publish at least 1,500 posts across our sites. Ideally, we publish more than that, 2,000 or more, but we're going to aim for 1,500 because we think that's doable. We also want to prioritize old content a lot more. So going back and adding a lot of internal links, adding more images to our posts, diving into analytics, figuring out what's working. So finding maybe topics that are doing really well and publish more content around those topics and interlink those articles, things like that. Another big one for 2022 for us, we want to define our strategy, so our actual approach for building websites a little bit better. So, and what I mean by that, we've done a lot of experimentation on our sites for sites actually 3, 4, 5, and 6 now. So we want to kind of jump into the numbers, looking at analytics, figure out what's working on those sites, what's not working, and use that data-driven approach to figure out how should we actually be building websites going forward. Obviously, we can build websites that are successful, but that doesn't mean we can't do better. You have to always be improving, looking for ways to improve your sites and your approach and whatnot. So that's what we want to do. That's a big part of our strategy in 2022. Last thing I'll mention, this isn't really a goal, but we may or may not launch another site. So we have a site ready to go, have a lot of keywords already pulled for it and everything, but we might not launch that site simply because we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We obviously don't want to lose focus on our 4 big sites and site 5, which is getting pretty big now as well. And we want to put a lot of effort into site 6 as well. So we may or may not launch a site, even though we already have everything ready to go for it. So we're just kind of on the fence on that one. So just looking back at 2021, great year for us, biggest year we've ever had by far. Going into 2022, if we can do better than 2021, we'll be happy. That's truly what we're hoping for. Just keep growing year over year. It's really all you can wish for as a publisher. All you guys that have websites or that are starting websites, we wish you the best of luck. Please share your results and your growth with us in the comments. We definitely like hearing about that. And we definitely wish you the best, and we hope that you keep growing just as we have as well. Guys, I think that's all I have, so I will catch you in the next one.